Ezreal players, please stop building Divine Sunderer. It feels like every single time I have an Ezreal on my team these days, they're still living in May of 2021, stuck building Divine Sunderer every game as though that item is still so broken on Ezreal that it overshadows his other options. And since that's not at all true in the current game anymore, I really need to say something about it. Divine Sunderer is a fine item on Ezreal. It's not bad, it wins games, and it might be the best item in certain situations. But not all of them, and I can prove it. Before Divine Sunderer received its nerfs to ranged users on patch 11.13, it was by far the strongest single item spike on Ezreal, as well as generally one of the best mythics in the game. Despite that though, it was never strongest once Ezreal got to 2, 3, or 4 items. Mythicless or Triforce builds would do more damage later. Sunderer was a classic case of Ezreal abuse. The item just made him so strong so early that he was able to comfortably snowball from his mythic purchase, and since that spike was so powerful, there was no reason to opt into builds that scaled slightly better. But after the nerfs, the one item spike is no longer a compelling reason to build Sunderer. Comparing the damage of a short string on various one item spikes, Sunderer's damage is in almost all tested cases lower than Trinity Force or Essence Reaver. The same can be said for our 3-item spikes. On screen now is my full data chart from an extended combo on various training dummies. To be fair to Sunderer, we should point out right away that its damage isn't significantly lower than the other options in the average case, unless you're on that Frozen Heart build, which... But as we start looking deeper into the numbers, Sunderer isn't excelling where we'd expect it to. On tankier targets, it's doing almost the exact same damage as a Mythicless or Trinity build, while also doing between 300 to 400 damage less on average targets. Is there an HP breakpoint where Sunderer is stronger? Probably. I'm sure there's rare games where just spamming Sunder-empowered Qs into a frontline is what you need to be doing. But in most games, the majority of your opponents won't be reaching that breakpoint, and itemizing to be marginally better at killing a frontliner in exchange for being noticeably worse at killing the other enemies just doesn't sound appealing. It's just hard to justify this item for me. Trinity Force is going to be rewarding good auto-weaving Ezreal players more than the other options with its higher attack speed, and Essence Reaver builds just do more raw damage to everything that isn't a tank, while matching Sunderer build damage to tanks if a Serildus is present in the build, and providing the opportunity to build Duskblade for this funny number on unreasonably squishy targets. Now, raw damage isn't everything, and to me that is the valid argument in favor of Sunderer. You're sacrificing just a bit of damage in exchange for just a bit of health and healing, and I'm not willing to claim that's never worth it. In fact, I think I've talked myself into believing that the defensive utility is kind of nice for a newer or average Ezreal player. But Ezreal is one of those champions with such a high skill ceiling and so much inherent safety that it seems the best Ezreal players can always get just a bit more damage out of him without being punished for it. I think an Ezreal player who really knows their limits should not be opting into Sunderer when the numbers just don't indicate that it's not even best on Ezreal in its tank busting niche.